Aetheria had once been a land of harmony, cradled by forests, rivers, and mountain peaks crowned with eternal snow. Magic flowed freely in the veins of its people, guided by scholars, healers, and the mage queens who ruled with wisdom. But centuries of peace had bred complacency. Beyond Aetheria's borders, shadows stirred. Rumors had reached Alawan of the Ashen Horde, a vast army of men and beasts led by a warlord who called himself Kelith the Unbound. Kelith was no ordinary conqueror. He bore within him a shard of the void itself, a dark essence that fed on magic. Wherever his legions marched, crops withered, rivers turned to tar, and sorcerers lost their power. Entire kingdoms crumbled in silence, their magic stolen and their people enslaved. And now his eyes had turned toward Aetheria. In her private sanctum, Alawan studied ancient tomes, their parchment crackling beneath her touch. She had scoured every scrap of prophecy left by her ancestors, desperate to find some weapon, some secret to turn the tide. Her fingers traced the inked words of an age-old scroll. When the world is smothered in shadow, the crown keeper shall awaken the last spell. But beware, for the last spell demands a sacrifice greater than gold, greater than kingdoms, greater than life itself. The last spell. That was what haunted her dreams. She did not yet know its form, only that it was dangerous, so dangerous that her foremothers had sworn to keep its knowledge hidden, passed only from queen to queen in whispers, and now she was the last. Alawan exhaled, letting the orb of light in her palm dissipate into mist. Sacrifice. That word gnawed at her heart. She had already lost her husband to an assassin's blade 5 winters ago. She had sworn never to let her daughter, Princess Lyra, inherit a kingdom in ruin. But if the prophecy spoke true, victory over Kelith might cost her everything. The next morning, in the great hall, the council of lords gathered. They were armored in gold and steel, but their courage had grown thin. "Your Majesty," said Lord Arden, a hawk-nosed man whose family commanded the western armies, "we cannot win this war. Kelith's horde is endless. His sorcery devours even the strongest wards. We must abandon the eastern provinces and fortify the capital." Others murmured agreement. Only General Seraph, commander of the Royal Guard, slammed a gaunted fist against the table. "Cowards, all of you. Will you leave our people to slaughter? The Queen's magic has never failed us. With her at the front, we can drive the invaders back," Arden sneered. "And what happens when even her magic is consumed, General? Do we gamble the fate of the realm on one? Alawan rose, her staff glowing faintly as if in warning. The murmurs died instantly. "I am not just one woman," she said, her voice cutting through the hall. "I am the keeper of Aetheria. The blood of 10 generations of archmages flows through me. If you would abandon our people, then leave. I will stand, even if I must stand alone." The chamber fell silent. None dared argue further. Still, Alawan saw the fear in their eyes. Even her own council doubted her. And perhaps in her heart, she doubted herself. It was on the 7th night that the skies above the eastern watchtowers grew black, not with storm, but with ash. Aetheria's soldiers reported monstrous shapes moving beneath the haze-armored giants, wolves with burning eyes and men whose souls had been hollowed into husks. At their center, Kelith himself rode a beast of bone and fire. Alawan stood upon the battlements of the capital, her staff blazing. She could feel the pull of his presence even across the battlefield, a hollow, sucking force that tugged at her very soul. The void shard within him craved her magic dot at dawn. The horns of war sounded. The Ashen Horde descended. The clash was unlike any war Aetheria had faced. Arrows darkened the sky, fire met shadow, and the walls trembled with the fury of siege engines. Alawan strode among her people, her staff unleashing bolts of lightning that split the earth. She wove barriers of shimmering blue to shield the soldiers, her voice ringing with incantations, For a time, it seemed they might hold Dot, but then Caliph came forth. He raised his blackened blade and with a single swing, shattered the wards around the crystal gate. His very presence drank the magic from the air, dimming Aloan's staff. Soldiers fell, not slain by steel, but drained of life. Aloan met his gaze across the battlefield. His eyes glowed with void fire. Archmage, Caliph called, his voice echoing unnaturally. Give me your crown, your staff, and your power, and I will spare what remains of your kingdom. Resist, and I will consume it all. Her heart pounded, the prophecy burning in her mind. The last spell, sacrifice, greater than life itself. No, she whispered, and lifted her staff. Aetheria bows to no shadow. She retreated to the sanctum, the battle raging outside, and laid the staff upon the ancient sigil carved in the floor. Her daughter Lyra was there, eyes wide with fear. Mother, what are you doing? Aloan cupped her daughter's cheek. Forgive me, my love. There's no other way. Lyra shook her head, tears falling. You can't. The last spell will take you. That is the price, Aloan said softly. But it will give you a future. Aetheria will need its princess, no, its queen. With trembling hands, she pressed her crown onto Lyra's head. Then she raised her staff and began the incantation. The chamber shook. The crystal atop the staff blazed like a star. Lines of light spread across the sigil, filling every groove. The books and vials on the shelves rattled and burst into flame. Lyra screamed as tendrils of energy wrapped around her mother, pulling her toward the heart of the circle. Aloan's body shone with searing brilliance, her voice unwavering as she chanted words not heard in millennia. The last spell awakened. Above the battlefield, the sky split open. A sphere of pure radiance erupted from the sanctum, engulfing the city and surging outward like a tidal wave. The soldiers of Aetheria felt strength return to their limbs. Their blades blazed with light. The ashen horde shrieked as the power seared their corrupted flesh. Caliph alone stood unyielding, raising his blade to the heavens. The void shard within him writhed, trying to devour the light, but the spell was stronger. For the last spell was not a weapon of destruction, it was a gift of life. Aloan's soul, her very essence, poured into the land. Every tree, every river, every soldier was filled with her spirit. The kingdom itself rose against the invader. With a cry of defiance, the people of Aetheria surged forward, driving Caliph's forces into retreat. The warlord staggered, the shard within him cracking beneath the force of the queen's sacrifice. At last, even he fell to one knee, consumed by the light. When the radiance faded, Aloan's body was gone. Only the staff remained, its crystal dimmed but warm to the touch. Princess Lyra held it to her chest, tears streaming. She knew her mother's soul had become one with Aetheria itself. That day, the ashen horde was broken, scattered to the winds. Caliph vanished, his fate uncertain, but his power diminished. The people hailed their young queen, but Lyra felt the weight of her crown heavier than ever. And sometimes, when the wind rustled the trees or the torches flickered in the sanctum, she swore she could still hear her mother's voice, whispering, "Protect them, my child. For I am with you always." Years later, bards would tell of Queen Aloan, the archmage who gave her life to weave the last spell. They called her the Queen of Aetheria Eternal. For though her body had perished, her spirit lived on in every breath of wind, every drop of rain, every spark of magic that flowed through the land. And in times of darkness, when shadows threatened once more, the people believed that the light of their queen would rise again, shining brighter than any crown. Thank you for watching.